Okay, so I forgot to mention in the last little clip, let me set this tool down here real quick. Okay, so I've just got the little driver tool there. I don't know if this is the way all AMG motors, GEP motors come in these crates. The last few I've gotten, they've always used square drive screws. So you may go ahead and get pre-prepared and get yourself something like this, a DeWalt number 2 square drive. That's what I've got in the tool over there. What I did is I took the lid off, as you can tell, and I'm getting ready to remove this center 2x4 right here. And once I do that, I'm going to pop the engine out of there. I've actually got to cut the banding, which is on both of the lifting points. Once I cut that banding, the motor will be free. I'm going to pop it out of there. Won't bore you with the details. We'll see you on the next one. Alright, so I'm going to kind of go through this little P400 build here and kind of show you some of the things that I do. But anyway, won't bore you with the details. This crate engine was in that pickup truck, and I got it down out of there, which again, I won't bore you with those details. But once you get it down, if you're doing this, you know, as your average guy in your driveway, your engine hoist, you won't be able to set it down because the crate is so big. So what I've done here is I grabbed 4 jack stands, set it down on there, and then I'm going to pull the engine out, and that's as far as I've gotten right now. We'll see you in a minute. Alright, we're going to see if we can pop that sucker out of there. Okay, so I got it out here dangling in the air, and I'm going to cut the plastic off of it. Had a razor blade in my mouth there for a second. So here we go. Well, I think what they're doing is they're sealing these things in because there's no opening, just like on the last one I did. I just thought maybe there was this, I did it wrong on the last one, but apparently they seal them. Because there is no opening. So I'm just going to have to cut it off like I did the last one. that's it. So that is a P400. You've probably seen the video of the last one I did, and I'll just kind of show you the highlights of it. Is right here between the block and the oil pan, you have about a 3-inch piece of cast iron there that completely acts like a girdle, reinforces all 5 of the main caps. The P400s and the optimizers are going to have 1/2-inch block ports for the oil cooler hoses. Everything, motor mounts, exhaust manifolds, intake, transmission, injection pump, everything like that bolts directly to the P400. We're going to be putting a fluid damper, my pulley, the billet pulley we make. We also make the timing gear set that's going in this motor, and the oil pan, we're going to be replacing the oil pan, and I got a big list of parts, but that's kind of the highlights of what we're getting ready to do to this motor. And I don't normally do this, but this is for an overseas customer, and this one is kind of a special deal. I don't typically do this, but anyway, again, you can see P400. That's on the back side of the block, and it should be on the front. Yeah, right there. So on the passenger side for USA vehicles, it might be driver, or yeah, I guess I'd be driver's side for maybe an Australian vehicle, but you can see the P400. So that's it. We'll see you on the next one. I just thought maybe there was I did it wrong on the last one, but all right, draining the oil. Going to pop the oil pan off next. Exciting watching oil drain. All right, so pulling off the oil pan now. I got all the bolts removed, and I was going to show you this real quick because this is pretty common for people buying the P400, that you're going to have to replace the oil pan. Oh, let me run and grab the oil pan real quick. So there's the oil pan, brand new in the box. I'll open that up and we'll see what that looks like. I haven't even opened it yet. But going back to the oil pan, right here on this corner, there's a place where you can get a pry bar or a screwdriver, and then same on the opposite corner. I worked at it a little bit so it's ready to pop off. Here we go. She's ready to come off of there. Okay, so that's a P400 oil pan. Let's see what the new one looks like. It's from Moroso. We got with them and especially make this oil pan. Okay, so here's the new oil pan. This is the Moroso. It's all TIG welded. and plate it. Some kind of cadmium or maybe a zinc plate. Comes with a oiled paper type thing. Comes with a windage tray. I'm going to make sure all those bolts are tight, and then I'm going to clean the flange on the girdle, apply new silicone. Actually, it's the black RTV, and make a new gasket in there and bolt that back up. Won't bore you with those details either. Hope you're enjoying these. Okay, just a quick clip of my crankshaft holding tool. You can see it there set up. You'll reuse your original pulley bolts, which you see the 4 of them, goes through the tool, and you'll need 2 breaker bars. My crankshaft holding tool is designed to hold a breaker bar, and let me show you how this is done. I cheated and I loosened this thing up before the video because it was a mother sucker, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I'll show you what's going on here. It took everything I had to get that thing to come off, but it did come. And let me show you the basics here. So you're going to get the tool all mounted in here. The 1/2-inch drive will go into the square slot. You need a socket that fits the crankshaft bolt, and then you'll just rotate it like that. And that's pretty much all there is to that. And I'm going to get the harmonic balancer removal tool. We also offer that on the website. And you'll need this tool, the crankshaft holding tool, in order to retorque that crankshaft bolt to 200 pounds. And believe me, that was every bit of 200 pounds getting that thing off of there just a few minutes ago. Have a good day. All right, we're moving the harmonic balancer. I do rent this tool on the website, and this is how you would set it up. You'll reuse 2 of the existing bolts. You'll get it set up like this. This is a 7/8 and a 5/8, and start cranking on it. She's about ready to come off. When you start getting out towards the end, you want to be ready to catch it. I think that's it. Yep. Alright, so the next step is going to be to get that timing cover off of there. That's usually 15mm. Bolts on here. Don't drop them into the engine, or you'll be pulling that oil pan back off. And right below the timing mark indicator, there's another bolt there, and it takes the security Torx type driver. So I'm not going to bore you with having you watch me do that. I'm going to remove this, remove that bolt that's under there, pop that cover off, and then we'll see you on the next one. The 2-jaw puller set up on the crankshaft sprocket. A lot of the times you're going to have a tool like this because the thing is just so tight on the crank. And let me kind of show you how that goes. You set it up like you see there, and you want to put a piece of metal on the snout of the crank because you do not want the tool, the thread of the tool, to go down into the crankshaft and damage those threads. So put something out on the end, like a big flat washer or just a piece of metal. I just happened to find something out of the scrap pile here. It was just a piece of aluminum. It worked perfect. So let me show you. You want to tighten this up, and at the same time be making sure that the camshaft gear or sprocket is coming out at the same time, otherwise it will bind. once you get the camshaft gear off, you can just crank on the, well, no pun intended, but crank on the crank sprocket until you get it off. Okay, now I've got it butted up against the piece of metal I was using, so I'm probably gonna have to find something smaller diameter because this was hitting the actual crankshaft sprocket, so now I need to get something smaller so I can pull it the rest of the way. Okay, the second part of this is I've got a socket there which is smaller than the diameter of the crankshaft sprocket, but large enough to go seat on that crankshaft pretty good. I do it in two parts like that because to set it up originally with the socket is just harder to keep all that in place and all that, so I just usually do it in two operations. Let me see if I can do this without everything falling apart on me. Okay, and you could see there at the last how everything wanted to kind of get out of alignment, and it can be a real pain if you're trying to pull that whole thing off in one shot with that socket there. You see how I had to use my left hand to hold everything together while I was cranking, and when you're doing that originally, that sprocket is really tight on that crankshaft until you get it moving, and then after that excuse me, I'm fighting allergies, so I know my voice might sound terrible, but once you get the crank sprocket moving, it's much easier, and then you can use that socket like I just showed you. Have a good day. Okay, so here I'm removing the crankshaft keyways. You don't have to do this unless you're putting in a timing gear or some other reason you might need to take the keyways out. And you don't need to do this on a DB2 setup, but on a DS4, it comes with a special double key, and I guess I'll have to show that to you when I install the gear. I just took out the keyway that is closest to the block, and it came out pretty easily. I'm hoping that this other one comes out just as easy. What you want to do is stuff a bunch of paper or anything down in that area there that would allow that keyway to fall into the oil pan or down into the crankshaft area. Definitely don't want that. And I've got a magnet here ready because if it happens to fall on that piece of paper, I'm going to pick it up with a magnet. And so let's get it going. All I use is a trusty ball peen and a punch. Okay. I did that to hopefully loosen up that keyway. I think they're actually glued in. I noticed there's a green, like a Loctite substance on here that crankshaft sprocket was actually kind of glued on there too. That's a good thing. Okay, she's coming up. Well, I'm going to have to get some vice grips and work that sucker out of there. I forgot to grab those too, but you kind of get the point there. You see what's going on. You just got to tap that thing out of the keyway, and then the key will actually come out. And sometimes it's a pain in the butt, but you just keep working at it and it will come. Okay, so I've got the crankshaft gear on, and I didn't want to make a big long video of how to install that key, but here's the special double key, and the reason for that is only on the DS4, so we can put the reluctor wheel on. And I'll show you how that goes on, because that's pretty quick. That's it. You just put it till it bottoms out, and then when you get that 200 pounds of torque on the harmonic balancer, that's actually compressing all that. So that'll be in there just tight, 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 and it just rides on that keyway. So we'll see you on the next video. Okay, so one thing that should be common sense is you want to lubricate the idler gears. And so what I do is I take me a plastic container with 1540 or whatever motor oil you're going to wind up using, and then I just set the idler gear right in there, and I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to let that soak for as long as possible as you can. I like to, if you get a bigger Tupperware dish or plastic container, you can just submerge the whole thing. I'm going to let this soak for a solid hour. I'm going to turn it around and soak the other side for another hour, and then I'll be installing that. We'll show you how that goes. Okay, real quick video. I flipped this around, and that side's been soaking in there for about an hour. I'm getting ready to install them. I'll show you the actual finish thing, because I'm actually trying to keep these videos as short as possible, but I did want to show you this too, is that the timing gear set will come with the bronze plate right here. Put a little assembly lube on the other side, and then it'll just kind of basically temporarily hold it there in place so you can install it. And then I smeared some on the outside surface too. We'll show you what's going on the next video. So I wanted to show you this, and that is that when you install these, what they call the power gear, the idler gear, which is these two here, you want the larger one to the left as you're looking at the front of the engine. Also, I've got a special crankshaft socket here which engages the keyway, and it allows me to turn the crank with a with a ratchet. If you don't have that tool, you could put the bolt back in and rotate it. You'd probably only be able to rotate it clockwise at that point. And it's nice to be able to bump it back and forth, because what happens is these gears are so precisely machined that if you don't have the crankshaft and the camshaft lined up perfectly, the idler gears are not going to insert. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. I mean, you can't really move those at all. But in order to get these gears meshed with the crank and the camshaft, you may have to sit here and just bump this that way a little bit and then bump it back the other way a little bit. And the whole time you're trying to mesh these gears together. And now that I've taken them out, I probably have to do it again. There it goes. But if I bump it, if I need to, I can bump it the other way. And then you see how that'll just, you're just barely bumping it, but that gives you just enough where those idler gears will slide in there in place, and they're nice and lubricated, ready to go. We'll see on the next. What you're looking for here when you get the idler gear, actually before you get the idler gear in there, what you're wanting to do is get the crankshaft at 12 o'clock, the camshaft dot at 6 o'clock, line those two up, and then what you'll do, then you'll insert the idler gears, again making sure the larger one's on the left, and again using that trick by bumping the crankshaft back and forth, you'll be able to insert those idler gears. Then you'll take your injection pump timing gear, or I should say injection pump drive gear, that slides on, you'll get it torqued. And I suppose you could eliminate this step and go straight looking at the camshaft gear from the gear drive. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, I'm zoomed out all the way. Okay, so then after you get the crank and the camshaft gear lined up, the injection pump drive gear also has, sorry, getting out of focus there. The injection pump drive gear will also have a dot on it. So now what I'm going to do is rotate the engine until this dot is exactly at 12 o'clock. And then when I go to install the injection pump, let me do that again because I don't think this camera's not cooperating. Okay, so 12 o'clock on the crank, 6 o'clock on the cam gear, and then there's also a mating or matching corresponding mark on the injection pump drive gear. Then what I'm going to do is rotate the engine until this is at 12 o'clock, and then that will allow me to mate up the injection pump drive gear that actually bolts to the injection pump, and that'll be with the camshaft at 12 o'clock, and then the injection pump drive gear will be right about here at 6 o'clock, and that's how you'll know you have that in time. See you on the next one. Okay, so it's coming along. I didn't want to bore you with all the details of putting a timing cover on. That's pretty straightforward, gaskets and sealants and all that. One thing I will note is that on a P400, down here along where the oil pan would be on a regular 6.5, there are no bolts or anything that go along that lip, although there are the bolt holes in the timing cover, and there are 2 holes under there that you could put 2 bolts in there, but on the outer 2 bolt holes there's no way you could even get bolts in there. So from the factory they're just using the black RTV, and that's what I did. I just put the bunch of black RTV in there, squeezed out real nice, made a real nice bead. So that's the difference between a P400 and a regular one. And then got the water pump mounted, and what I'm getting ready to show you here is how to install the harmonic balancer. So let me get into that. We've got the fluid damper, which is available on the website. This guy, real nice, lifetime part. You'll line up the keyway on the crankshaft. You'll lubricate the seal with oil, which I've already done. And if you've got a used motor or something like that, you probably want to replace that seal, put a new one in. But make sure you lube it up. You'll install that right on the snout. Then configure the tool. Screw that into the crankshaft as far as you can. Like that. And the flat side of the tool is going to go against the balancer. There is a beveled side. Once you get it to that point, you can start turning the larger nut while holding the smaller one, and that will press that dude right on there. If I would have done this before I did the water pump, then I wouldn't be hitting the water pump here. So if you got the water pump off, you might want to do the balancer net before you do the water pump. Otherwise, now I've got to sit here and do this, reposition the wrench every time, which is not a big deal. And you'll just keep going until you feel it bottom out. Okay, it's just about to bottom out. There it is. Then just loosen it, and you should be able to take the tool right out at that point. Sometimes the adapter will stay in the crankshaft, and you gotta, yeah, just like it did just now. Looks like I'm gonna have to get a pair of pliers or something to get that out. But then you'll take my tool, crankshaft holding tool. You can put a breaker bar here. You'll use the 4 bolts, hold that, and then when I get that adapter from the balancer tool out of there, I'll be able to put the crankshaft bolt in there. That'll be on there, and torque this sucker down to 200 pounds, and you're good to go. We'll see you on the next one. Alright, so I went ahead, and there wasn't but 2 bolts holding that water pump on. I went ahead and pulled it back off so I could show you this a little better, how to set up the crankshaft holding tool that we sell. There it is, and it allows you to run a breaker bar out to it so you can get a lot of torque. If this is in the truck, you can turn the engine until that breaker bar rests up against something like the frame, and then you take another breaker bar with a socket on it, tighten it up, and then you'll like a dummy, I went and forgot to get the torque wrench, but you'll get your torque wrench after you get this thing about as tight as you can get it by hand, or I mean with this setup. Then get your torque wrench on there and torque it up to 200 pounds. That's about it. Just wanted to show you how that tool works. Alrighty, while the water pump is off is a good time to put the timing drive gear in, and you see that this is at 6 o'clock, and then it goes right up into the valley of the 6 o'clock position, so that'll be in time. Stab that. Oh, let me show you this. Got a brand new, and this is brand new, it's not rebuilt, injection pump, DS4. Comes with a PMD, 2-year warranty, hardened. Okay, so with the water pump still off, you can see that the camshaft gear is at 12 o'clock. The IP drive gear is at 6 o'clock now, so those will be timed up. Got a brand new injection pump here. It's a DS4 pump. This is typically for the 94 on up, even all the way up to 02. Comes with a brand new Standardine PMD, which I'm not that crazy about, but it does come with it. 2-year warranty and hardened internal parts. There's no core charge. Got a new gasket here. Getting ready to stab this and put that on there. I'll kind of show you how that goes. I also noticed that the pin, the dowel pin, is also at 6 o'clock when the timing gears are lined. Okay, so with the timing, with the water pump still removed, I can show you the timing gears, or the marks I should say, and back inside here are my timing gears, the TimeKeeper DS4 set. And then when you rotate the crank so that this is at 12 o'clock, now the injection pump drive gear will be at 6 o'clock. And coincidentally, that dowel pin is also at 6 o'clock. Just kind of noticed that today. Put the bolts in, torqued it down. Got a new gasket between the pump and the timing cover. This is a brand new pump. It's not a rebuilt. Comes with a Standardine PMD on it, which I'm actually not crazy about the gray Standardines, but it does come with a new PMD. Comes with a 2-year warranty. They have the hardened internal parts inside. There's no core charge, anything like that. So they're a pretty good value when you consider the hassle and everything else that goes into trying to get a rebuilt and what you get versus what a brand new pump costs. Any questions about that, just email me or give me a call. As you can see, I got the fluid damper on there, getting ready to put my pulley on there, the Billet crankshaft pulley we make. And next thing is going to be glow plugs, waiting on the hard lines to go from here to the injectors. It's going to get brand new injectors, and I'll keep you updated. See you then. Alright, well, just wanted to show you this last video clip. Got the injectors installed, all 8 of them, with the return hoses, both sides. Got the hard lines, the IP hard lines. They're all routed and tightened. So that's ready to go. Got the fluid damper, water pump, timing gears inside there, Moroso oil pan. Kind of going over a little inventory here because I'm going to send this to my customer also. So over here we got the oil cooler hose kit with the fittings right there. In there are the brand new exhaust manifolds in that box. Over here is the turbo oil drain hose kit. Here are the 4x4 oil filter adapter seals. Here's energy suspension motor mounts. There's a turbo boost bolt and a fuel pressure tap. Inside this box is the A-Team turbo, and then we've got an alternator, brand new 140 amp alternator. We've also got a crossover pipe, which I actually forgot to bring out here, but that's going also. So that should be everything. That's a P400 built, ready to go, and hope you enjoy it.